was it back in the 90s where you had moron studio executives that only care about selling toys to adult franchises like Batman and Robin and RoboCop 3 to where they would initiate audiences? Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. I'm rereading the it's right over there. You can't even see it. I don't know why I'm pointing. The Reign of Marvel Studios, the book that I quote all the time on the history of making Marvel Studios in preparation for when Fantastic Four comes out. And that's one of the things that they're talking about a lot, is that a big part of the goal from New York City's version of Marvel with their movies was, if you make movies, you sell toys. But this was also true of so much of the tactics with the Batman franchise was to sell toys. And then with the RoboCop franchise, they wanted to sell toys. And so you go, back in the 90s, where we had these moron studios that only care about selling toys to adult franchises, like, where did that initiate, where does that come from? I mean, it's like, where did it come from? It came from Star Wars is the actual answer. That prior to Star Wars, tie-in toys for things weren't that big of a deal. Like, you had some Star Trek toys, and there were things, but Star Wars comes out, and George Lucas actually held on to a number of the rights for the toys, and they didn't have very many when they first came out, and eventually a zillion of them came out. And George Lucas made so much money selling Star Wars toys, beyond just the fact that the movies were popular and sold tickets. Then they sold all these toys and T-shirts. And that's the piece that sometimes is left out when we discuss movies, box office, that it's successful and all. We're just looking at, you make money by selling tickets and what's the box office. But studios are running a holistic business. Ticket sales are one way that they make money. And when you make something that can sell toys, you can make so much more money. And that's where that exploded all throughout the 80s. And that's where the toy companies started like working with television companies. And so He-Man came about because they wanted to sell toys. like, all right, these are cool toys we can sell to boys. Now let's work backwards to a television show. And G.I. Joe predated the cartoon, but they made a cartoon so they could sell a lot more toys. And then in the mid-'80s, they wanted to create a new toy line for the Transformers, so they put out a movie where they killed off all the Transformers and introduced a new set of a new set of characters, and so that the next season would have a new set of characters, a new set of toys to sell. And there was just like this, for so long, toys were, like Batman, 89, it sold like $500 million worth of tickets, a huge amount in 1989. But it sold several $1 billion in merchandise. So the movie makes its own money, but then has this trickle down. It's the movie business. And their executives, their job is to maximize profits and make as much money as possible. And no one complains about Star Wars being very toyetic. But when you take Batman and you go, McDonald's got mad at us because of Batman Returns, let's make something more childish and juvenile that's more toyetic with Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, all of a sudden people get mad. When you go, RoboCop, we sold a lot of RoboCop toys. Kids love robots. What if we made the next one PG-13? In the book, they were talking about one of the reasons that the first two movies in the MCU were Iron Man and Hulk was not because Iron Man was a popular character. They're like, Iron Man, this is not a very popular character. But what they did is they did focus groups on selling toys, and the two most popular toys that could be made out of the lead characters that they had access to were Hulk and Iron Man. Now, kids generally knew who Hulk was. They didn't necessarily know who Iron Man was, but kids love flying robots. And so one of the reasons that Iron Man kicked off the MCU is because those studio executive guys went, we can sell a lot of Iron Man toys. It's that. Like, it is what it is. Sometimes it doesn't matter. The original Star Wars. Sometimes it creates beloved franchises that came about for pretty cynical capitalistic reasons, like He-Man and G.I. Joe. And sometimes very cool things are ruined because the executives want to sell toys. So back to the question on the selling toys. Fun fact, the Cars franchise has sold over $10 billion in retail sales since 2006. That's a lot of money in Cars toys, even when none of the films even made $1 billion. Exactly. 3 Cars movies, none of them made $1 billion. All of them did well enough, but I think the 3 of them combined didn't make $2 billion. And they've sold $10 billion worth of toys. Like, why did they keep making Cars movies despite the first Cars movie at that point in time being the weakest reviewed Pixar film, and then Cars 2 also being the weakest, by a lot, the weakest reviewed Pixar film? Why did they still make a third movie? Because they sold a lot of cars, a lot of pillows, a lot of sheets, a lot of socks, a lot of t-shirts, because kids loved Lightning McQueen.
Most of these clips are pulled from my Patreon live streams. I do about 6 live streams every single month. For $2 per month, $20 per year, you can get access to all the exclusive videos and live streams. For $5 per month, you get your name on my end card. At the top tier, you get a 30-minute video chat with me each month. The link down below in the description has more information.